every single one of you. Today is about a great city of St. Louis.
It is with
Guess what?
great
You
honor
did it.
and an incredible pleasure for me to announce that St. Louis will be the 28th team in Major League Soccer.
The one reason why
Congratulations.
is every single one of you.
It is with great honor and an incredible pleasure for me to announce that St. Louis will be the 28th team in Major League Soccer.
All right, and
Congratulations.
that's going to happen.
So you guys should all be incredibly proud. And the World Cup, not much to say about that, except that's awesome. So congratulations.
The first question for you involves the overall time period with this whole scenario. It's October 9th of 2018. That's the initial press conference to announce the fact that the Kavanaugh and Taylor families would unite to pursue Team 28. Fast forward to August 20th of this year, and the announcement is made by Don Garber in that video we saw that St. Louis is team number 28. How did you pull this off with your team in less than a year?
You know, I would say, you know, you look at what we all do in a game of soccer, you put together a great team, and it's amazing what you can do when you have a great team. So I would also say that whether it's sport or it's business, you try to learn from your mistakes and continue to get better. So the first round, as we walked through that, trying to bring MLS to St. Louis, learned a lot through that process. Moving into the second round, I think learned also that MLS, their optimal situation is to have ownership that is 100% local and incredibly vested and invested in the community. And if you think about just sports organizations picking up and moving, they don't want that to happen. So looking at that and looking at how we approached this from a tax position, working with the Taylors and the Taylors' commitment to St. Louis from a business and philanthropic perspective, our collective commitment to St. Louis from a worldwide perspective, and my perspective from a philanthropic and business perspective. Bringing that to the MLS and our approach, I think made it really easy for the MLS to say, this is a great ownership group that is truly committed to the game, to MLS, and to the community. So I think that made it a lot easier for the MLS to make a quick decision.
From the very outset of this overall scenario, there were three mandatory ingredients that each potential expansion city had to have: a solid ownership group, existing ties to the community, a solid stadium plan in your downtown area, and third, an existing soccer culture in your city. Well, in St. Louis, that dates back to 1875. So you ticked off those very quickly. One of the things I want to ask you with reference to the latest renderings of the stadium, and you touched upon this with relation to what you're doing for the city. This is not just a soccer stadium. We're well beyond that. This is an urban hub of activity for downtown.
No, it really is. I couldn't be more excited for St. Louis, and I think St. Louis gets a bad rap a lot of times. And if you think about some of the things that St. Louis is most recognized for, if you travel the United States or you travel the world, what do you hear? you hear about the Cardinals, you hear about the Blues, and so sport isn't the only piece of it, but it's a big piece in regards to brand recognition. And I truly believe things that are happening downtown St. Louis, there's over $8 billion in construction that's underway. If you look at the economic activity, the connection to the millennials, all of this stuff connected together, not just one thing alone. MLS alone doesn't make St. Louis great. You bring the business leaders, if you bring academia together, we can create something special here in St. Louis. And I think we've got a lot of momentum that MLS is, and I think we collectively believe it is the sport of the future. Soccer is the sport of today and the future moving forward. It's the most global sport also, and the most diverse sport. So we think there's so much that bringing this to St. Louis, building a stadium downtown, and really just creating more energy. And you look at, if anybody's been to Union Station locally, Bob O'Loughlin has done a great job from a visionary perspective. Yeah, there's a lot of exciting things going on, and my view is St. Louis, we need to think more progressively, and we need to act more progressively, and there's great things that are going to happen. So it is more than soccer, but pretty excited about the soccer side of it too.
As we enter 2020, what is next on the timetable for this franchise?
Well, we're getting a lot of input on the name. We're getting a lot of
How much input?
I think there was like 5,000 different names. But, as everybody knows, there's a ton of work that's going on behind the scenes relative to building of the stadium, the building of the leadership team that is going to run the team on a daily basis. You look at, we're going to have to quickly get into the sports director, that we're going to be looking at player development or player selection. So there's a lot of things that are happening behind the scenes. But I will tell you, we feel very good about everything that we're doing. And I also do want to make sure that I tell everybody in this room and anybody you talk to, we really support everybody's. We really appreciate everybody's support, because the support we hear throughout St. Louis, and I will tell you that anybody around the game and with political figures are always incredibly supportive about bringing MLS to St. Louis. So I can't thank you enough for all your support.
And speaking of that support, and I bring this up with you only because you told me that I could, with reference to the overall support, people were taken aback a little bit. No, taken aback dramatically. Not as much taken aback as I'm sure you were as an ownership group when 2 or 3 weeks ago the governor had a little difficulty with the tax abatement issue. Where does that stand now, Jim?
Yeah, I wouldn't, don't want to go into detail on that, but I would say that, it's all a bit of part of the process, and I've had a little bit of this process the last time around that was not fun at all, and was not good for our city, our state. Where we are now, I think there may have been a little bit of confusion. I truly believe that we've had discussions with the governor. I think the governor understands how important this is, MLS, bringing MLS to St. Louis, the building of the stadium downtown. So I feel very confident that he is a supporter of what we're doing. We still have a lot of details to work through, but I'm confident that he's going to be on board, and he's going to be behind us and supportive in the way that we need him to be. But we still have to work through some of the details.
Thanks, Jim. That's good news. You also have another team, a USL team. 4 or 5, 6 years ago, that went a long way in putting St. Louis back on the national soccer map. What this stadium does is give you a potential venue for World Cup qualifiers, exhibitions, things of that nature. But along with that, this is unprecedented in league history dating back to 1996, that you have your stadium, offices, and training facilities in one overall exact same footprint, especially in a downtown area. So congratulations on that.
No, thank you. It is very exciting, and I'll tell you, it's a little bit to my surprise as much as I've been involved with the game, and Bill, yourself. There is no other team, MLS team in the United States or North America that has their training facilities and their stadium downtown with the training facility adjacent to the stadium. And, you know, talking to others around the world, even if you're looking at a Bundesliga and EPL, none of the stadiums that they have their training grounds right next to the main stadium. So we think we're setting really another bar in regards to the connection of the training facility being downtown, right next to the stadium. We also feel that it's going to be great to create green space in a downtown area that, again, it normally does not happen like that. If you think about, plus with Union Station being right next door, and having the ability to use that green space where we'll have 3 fields, most likely 2 of them will be grass, 1 will be turf, that we can use for some game day prep with like kids and things that are pre-game activities. So very, very excited about what we have put together. And I'll tell you, the Commissioner Garber and the entire MLS executive team was blown away when we basically showed them the designs that we have, having both the practice facility and the stadium downtown.
This is going to be fabulous. It starts in March of 2022. I just mentioned a moment ago, I touched upon it. You have another team, a USL team. A little bit of news today with reference to that? Share it.
Yeah, but nothing very important.
Well, just tell us.
No, I'm just kidding. We have a new coach. I would like to introduce our coach, Steve Tritchu. If you could stand up, Steve. We're very excited to have Steve here. Say a little something about Steve, but Anthony Poulos basically got recruited to go be the assistant coach for an MLS team. So Anthony's a great guy, high character guy, did a great job for us. But I feel very, very good that we have a great coach. Steve has coached in the USL for several years, at the professional level for multiple years up in Colorado. So coming right out, we have someone that has done, I think, a very, very good job in a somewhat challenging situation at times. So, you know, the biggest concern, Bill, I mean, we were going through and looking at bringing Steve on, and you know, everything checked the box except I went back and looked at where he went to school. And he went to
SIU Edwardsville.
Yes, he was a Cougar.
He's a Cougar.
And you can only be a Billiken if you're, no, we're just joking. So,
By the way, for all you great coaches in the room, the 1990 men's full national team qualified for the World Cup. Hadn't done so since 1950. Bobby Gansler did this with mirrors. There's no professional league. United States qualifies for the World Cup. Steve plays against Czechoslovakia. Fast forward a year later, he gets a job with Sparta Prague, and he's the first American to play in the European Cup. So a nice welcome for Steve Tritchu. Jim, thank you very much. And keep this rowdy worldwide technology table under control.
Yes,
ladies and gentlemen, nice hand for Jim Cavanaugh. Okay, good evening again, everyone. Every year at this banquet, we try to give you a little overview of what happened in 2019, kicking in a new decade, as a matter of fact. But soccer-wise, just how about 2019? And appropriately enough for tonight's dinner, let's talk about intercollegiate soccer. Stanford defeated University of North Carolina in PKs to win the 2019 Women's College Cup. It had to be good, right? Two number 1 seeds. As it turns out, it's an instant classic. After 90 minutes, 2 overtime sessions, we go to penalty kicks. Stanford's Katie Meyer turns out to be the difference as she saves 2. Siggy Schmidt used to always tell me the most vital penalty kicks are 1 and 3. And if you save the first, you're really in business. So the Cardinal wins 5-4 on penalty kicks. captures their second title in the last 3 years, their third in program history. On the men's side, congratulations to Georgetown for winning their first NCAA championship. Congratulations. For our two solid defensive units at Georgetown and Virginia, there were 6 goals scored in the final, and like the women's final, it proceeded to penalty kicks. The Hoyas goalkeeper, Tomas Romero, he made a save in the 7th round. Georgetown wins their first. For Brian Weiss, maybe more to come for the Georgetown coach. In the NWSL, the Carolina Courage wins their 2nd consecutive championship, playing in Cary, North Carolina, before a sellout crowd of well over 10,000 people. It was the 3rd straight final for the Courage. I'll talk about the club-country dynamic. It was alive and well in this particular final. Abby Dahlkamper, Sam Mewis, Crystal Dunn for the Courage. Against the Red Stars, Alyssa Nair, Julie Ertz, and Morgan Bryan for the Red Stars. Also in Carolina, just a couple weeks ago, the city was granted franchise number 30 in Major League Soccer to go along with Austin, Sacramento, and as we talked about, St. Louis, Miami, and Nashville begin this year. And speaking of MLS, Seattle won the MLS Cup 3-1 over Toronto in a rematch of the 2016 and 2017 finals. The crowd of 69,274 set a record for the largest attendance at a sporting event in CenturyLink Field. By the way, that's where they play NFL football. In 2018, at Atlanta's Mercedes-Benz Stadium, when Atlanta beat Portland for the MLS crowd, 73,019 people saw that game. These are staggering numbers. And as a follow-up to that, every year at this dinner, we talk about how soccer is making inroads, making a bigger impact on the overall sports landscape here in our country. The cultural, Jim touched upon this, the cultural demographic of the United States population is shifting, dramatically so. The United States has representatives from every country in the world. And maybe those changing demographics are leaning to soccer as a sport of choice. Is soccer next with regard to what's accepted as a national game? Who knows? But regardless, just hang on. It's going to continue to be a great ride as the sport progresses. But clearly the story of 2019 was the United States winning the World Cup. It's 4th. They now have 4 stars on their shirt. They defeated the Netherlands and Lyon, France, to repeat as world champions. It cemented their status, I think, as the gold standard in women's soccer, even as Europe, led by teams like Holland, England, France, just to say 3, mounts an overall continuous, sustained assault on the United States status. There continues to be a seemingly endless stream of great American players who drive this program forward and define how this team, at least in its current form, has been a social force every bit as much as a sporting one. But now it's back to work. Coach Vlatko Andonovski has named a 28-player roster for the annual January camp in Tampa. Begins Sunday, goes to the 15th. Following camp, he'll name the player roster for Olympic qualifying. CONCACAF Olympic qualifying is January 28th to February 9th. And speaking of national team camps, Greg Berhalter has called 25 players to participate in a nearly month-long session in Qatar. It starts on Sunday and runs to the 25th before returning to Los Angeles to face Costa Rica on February 1st. That's in Carson, California. After a rocky 2019, anybody would tell you that? Hopefully this experience of training in Qatar will translate to an appearance in Qatar at the 2022 World Cup. And finally, once a year, I remind you of just one game. Just one game that captivates the collective psyche of all of us as soccer fans and why we watch and love this game. In this case, in a year of overall fabulous games, it's two games. The semifinal legs of the 2019 Champions League between Barcelona and Liverpool. Now, it's on May 1st at the Camp Nou. Barcelona, as expected, wins 3-0, but it's really not that comfortable of a win. Suarez opens the scoring in the 26th minute, predictably from Jordi Alba, who's always running forward. Then the maestro takes over. Messi scores in the 75th minute against the run of play, may I add. Then in the 82nd minute, on a free kick of absolute majesty, go back and look at it, just when you think he can't do any more. So it ends 3-0. Surely it's over. Of course it's over. Not so fast. Anfield awaits on the 7th of May, and don't forget at Liverpool, the gate at the entrance states, "You'll never walk alone." These current players follow in the footsteps of Kevin Keegan, Emlyn Hughes, Kenny Dalglish, Ian Rustin, and the list goes on and on and on. Liverpool, driven by their fans, begins at a frantic pace. Of course, they can't play this way for 90 straight minutes. With pressure, continued pressure from Mane, Henderson, Shaqiri, Divock Origi knocks in a rebound in the 7th minute. It's 3-1 on aggregate. Can it be? No Salah, no Firmino. First 11 fixtures, they're both injured. Then Jorginho, Wijnaldum, a change for the injured Robertson, a great left back, Scottish left back. He scores in the 54th minute and then levels the tie in the 56th minute on a cross from Shaqiri. 2 goals in 2 minutes at the Kop end. They are literally going crazy. Now, shocked into reality, Messi attempts to take the game over. He can't. He's stopped at every chance by Alisson, the new goalkeeper for Liverpool. Then in the 79th minute, again, go back and watch these games. Divock Origi scores under a quick corner kick from Alexander-Arnold, and the inevitable, thought to be impossible, occurs. Liverpool beats Barcelona 4-3 on aggregate and goes on to win the Champions League over Tottenham Hotspur. Barcelona thought by putting on the Barcelona shirt, they're going to win just by showing up. Those days are over. So if you rewatch one game, see how this game and the aftermath on the on-field celebration at Anfield differentiates our sport from all others. So that was the end of that game. There's so many others, but that game in particular. All right, let's begin the body part, the body copy of our program, if you will. But before we do anything, let's welcome the parents of finalist Dylan Nealis from Massapequa, New York, Mary and Jim Nealis. Now, every year at this banquet, we're joined by several high school state championship teams. DeSmet from St. Louis, they won the Class 4 Boys Championship. Congratulations to them. They finished 19-4-1. Henry Lawler was the Class 4 Co-Player of the Year. Congratulations to the champs from DeSmet, led by the Class 4 Coach of the Year, Josh Klein. Rockwood Summit defeated Platte County to capture Class 3. They finished 29-0-1. Christian Kraus was named the Class 3 Player of the Year. They're coached by the Class 3 Coach of the Year, Tom Wade. Congratulations to the state champs from Rockwood Summit. Class 1 girls state champs from Duchesne. They're with us tonight. They defeated St. Vincent. They defeated St. Vincent to capture the state championship. Gabriel Schlapper, Haley Stockhausen were all state. The Pioneers were led by Coach of the Year, Patrick Turner. Congratulations to Duchesne. St. Dominic defeated Rockwood Summit to win the Class 3 state championship. They finished 26-2-1. Bradley Combs, Anna Stifler, Ashley Martinez were all first-team All-State, along with Jessica Larson, Ashley Benbutel. They're coached by Greg Keller. We congratulate St. Dominic. And finally, from Wentzville, the Class 3 District 8 champs, coached by Heidi Kleekamp. They were led by first-team All-Staters Chloe Netzel and Beth Roberts. Congratulations to Liberty from Wentzville. All right, let's begin to hear about our finalists. And for that duty, let's call up the president of United Soccer Coaches, Jeff Farnsworth. Jeff?
Thank you, Bill, and thank you to everyone at the Missouri Athletic Club for hosting such a fantastic event. This is always just a great event, and I've been to a few of these, and it's always such a pleasure to be here. On behalf of the United Soccer Coaches, congratulations to all this year's Hermann Trophy finalists for outstanding seasons. I'm honored to have the pleasure of introducing two of the top student athletes in NCAA Division I women's soccer, Jessie Fleming from UCLA and Emily Fox from North Carolina. Jessie helped the Bruins back to the College Cup for the second time in 4 years, and in the process earned first-team All-America honors for the second time in her career and the third All-America award overall. She did all this after playing every minute of every match for the Canadian, she did all this after playing every minute of every match for the Canadian national team at the 2019 World Cup in France, where she scored her first career World Cup goal and was named FIFA's Player of the Match following a 2-0 win over New Zealand. Emily helped lead the Tar Heels to the College Cup for the second time in her career and third time in the last 4 years. She started all 22 games in which she played and led UNC with 11 assists. The defender scored her first 2 career goals this year in a pair of Tar Heels NCAA tournament wins. Emily was selected as a first-team All-American and is a 2-time first-team All-ACC selection. At this time, please turn your attention to the video screens to see the highlights of Jessie and Emily in action.
Fox with the cross, Pinto with the heel kick, and it's going to find its way into the goal. What a pretty one from Brianna Pinto, and North Carolina has a 2-0 lead.
In this match, moving there with the turn, Claudia Dickey. Was Jewel from the corner. Bell came flying in for the header. Mucharera has it, and she's got a goal for North Carolina. It was inside the box, and a penalty is coming for the Tar Heels. Moy is ready. She takes her shot, and she has embraced tonight.
Fox working back towards this way, has Mucharera with her. Fox takes a shot herself, and Emily Fox has the equalizer. Last few minutes of this first half, this time she said, I'm going to take it myself, and finishes it off.
First of all, I thank the Athletic Club Symphony, who did a great job on both videos, don't you think? Coach, if you could stand up for a second, please. Let's talk it over with the rookie coach here at University of North Carolina. How many years now?
I got there as a coach in '76 with the men, actually. And then I did men and women for 10 years from '79 to '88. And then since '89, just the women.
Congratulations on an astounding career. First of all, congratulations. Another great year for you, 23-2-1, Coach of the Year. You get the field named after you. This never gets old, does it?
Well, actually, it's an absolute privilege to have a piece of paradise named after you, so I'm just overwhelmed with that, certainly. But also, what a privilege to be in this game for so long and actually to be a part of this organization. As a lot of you guys know, I've been here quite a few times with some amazing young women, and the class that you represent our sport with in the most positive way, and seeing what the future is going to be is just overwhelming. So St. Louis back in the day was our heart of the game, and to have you guys still continue to push us forward in the most positive way is very rewarding for me to continue to see.
You did get a real key player from St. Louis, Larry Kolupny, and she told me at one time that I have never been in a more competitive environment at training. You still conduct business the same way?
Yeah, we haven't changed much. Our kids like to compete, and I think that's the reason Lori came to us, is she wanted to be in an environment that felt like the way she played. And she was one of the greatest of all time. I was sharing with a colleague earlier about what made her special. Lori only had two kinds of games. She was either phenomenal or great. She had the closest margin between her best games and her worst game of any player I've ever coached. And I've coached a lot of the great ones. And that was from the heart of the city. You guys compete in a very blue-collar way, a very noble and admirable way in our game. And Kolupny represented you guys perfectly. And that's the way she played for me and also for her country. And she was just an extraordinary young woman and competitor.
Meanwhile, Emily Fox, our finalist, you told me a little bit earlier this evening you've texted with her family. She just did indeed have knee surgery today to her other knee. So the ACL continues to be the injury of choice for women. But how's she doing?
She's doing well. I got a nice text from her mother. Apparently, obviously all kinds of things can be wrong when they go in for the reconstructive surgery. But fortunately for her, the only thing that was wrong was the missing ACL. All the other pieces are there, and so they're ecstatic with that, as am I. She would love to come back as fast as possible, so we're hoping that she'll be able to finish on the field next fall for us.
Is she part of a new generation from the national team?
Well, what I love about what's happening now at that level, and Kelly, I'm sure will start to extend some more information on where we're going, is they're not reluctant to bring in the young players. And I know the veterans obviously have a concern sometimes when they keep bringing in the young. But the thing I'm really proud of for the collegiate game is I think what separates us on an international level is college soccer. Because what we have at a Division I level is we have over 320 schools that compete at the highest possible level at an amateur level in the United States. And so as a result, the typical pool of players graduating every year are competitive, and the coaches that work with them over the course of their 4 years in college are wonderful. And so the player pool for the United States every single year coming out of college is tremendous. And that puts us in a unique position. And so we have young kids coming in on a regular basis, and I credit my colleagues in the women's collegiate game for this, their professionalism, their commitment to the evolution of their young women, and that's put us in a unique position. I am so proud that we are dynastic. I'm also proud that you brought in a world champion to speak with us tonight because I think this is what sets us apart. I think the collegiate game and the number of great young players that are coming in every year make us special, and I'm certainly very proud of that.
Ladies and gentlemen, Anson Dorrance.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anson. This is the coach for UCLA. This is Amanda Cromwell, who has been with us before. Hi, Amanda. The semifinal against Stanford, you did well against Catarina Macario. Sophia Smith bothered you a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. We actually, the 2 games we played Stanford, Catarina didn't score on us, so we're probably the only team that she didn't score on this year.
As a follow-up to what Anson was talking about, what place does the women's game occupy in the overall development for national team players and the continued great play internationally?
Well, I mean, the college game you look at, I mean, Jessie Fleming's a great example. She could have left and gone pro, but the college game really helped her develop. The resources we have at UCLA, the environment we have, it is a professional environment. They just happen to be taking classes as well. And I think with all the resources they have, some of our pro players go away and they're like, oh, we miss it so much at UCLA because they don't necessarily have all the resources in the pro league. And obviously that's something we want to keep building is our pro league. But the college game has been so good about developing our players for the next level, and I know we'll continue to do that. 55 caps for you as a national team player. You played for Tony DeCicco. Any of his methods ever sneak into a UCLA training session? I played for that guy too. Yeah, Anson and Tony both were huge influences on my career. Lauren Gregg at the University of Virginia, she was also an assistant on the national team, and I take a lot of what they each brought to the table. And when get down to the nuts and bolts of it, a lot of it was about relationships and developing people, not just players. And they really, it really spoke volumes to us as players because we did have a family in that atmosphere. And it's hard as a national team when you're in and out, and you're at camps, and there's the lingering acts. We always would joke about how it was always close to that lingering acts, unfortunately, but it was something that you had to figure out how to deal with that and that competitive environment. And so I thought they did a fantastic job. He's also not a bad basketball player. We would play 2v2 on the road with a couple of us played high school basketball, and Anson always likes to ask him that story sometime.
Wait a minute, you have some basketball prowess as well?
I'm not that special in basketball.
Tell us about Jessie Fleming. What a great young player.
Jessie's just a great mind for the game. If you watch her play, you really have to watch her movement off the ball, how she just reads the game and how she makes everyone around her so much better. And I think that's a true sign of an elite player, of how everyone around you just their level increases, and just by the weight of the pass or the quality of the pass, like you set somebody up for success, and she would do that time and time again. But the best things about Jessie aren't even her as a player. She's a fantastic person. She's an engineering student at UCLA. She's got to come back and finish her degree. She's committed to academics, and just proud of her as the person she is. She's a servant leader, just always about her teammates first, and just one of those players you want to clone.
This is Amanda Cromwell, the coach for UCLA. Thank you, Amanda. Jeff Farnsworth, tell us about the men's finalists.
Our 2 runners-up for the men's award made quite an impact on Division I men's soccer this year as well. Both selected as United Soccer Coach's first-team All-Americas, Joe Bell from Virginia and Dylan Nealis from Georgia. Joe was named ACC Midfielder of the Year and co-captained his Virginia squad to an ACC Tournament Championship and a National Championship game, starting 22 of the 24 matches. The only 2 games he missed this season were due to a call-up from the New Zealand national team. He tallied 7 goals, 4 assists on the year, scoring 3 goals in the NCAA tournament, including the golden goal that sent Virginia to the College Cup for the 13th time in program history. Dylan helped lead the Hoyas to their 3rd straight Big East championship and the program's first ever NCAA championship. He helped lead a defense that registered 13 shutouts on the year and is the reigning 2-time Big East Defensive Player of the Year. He started all 24 games this year for Georgetown and ranked 5th on the team in scoring with 4 goals and 5 assists for 13 points. Congratulations again to all these student athletes, and please direct your attention to the video screen and watch the highlights of Joe and Dylan. Thank you.
It's been so long since last we met. Lie down, forever lie down. Or have you any money to bet? Lie down, forever lie down. There goes old George.
That's right, Nealis sends it across to Macharo.
Lochner over to Nealis. And a header.
Have an
opportunity. Rioski making the run in front of him. Amo to his right. Jay's got space. What a tackle by Nealis from behind.
Under some pressure, Matsalevich. He's been doing a ton of work to try to get the offense going. Nealis.
Now Griffin will return the favor against Nealis. Nealis shoves him away.
Nealis by everybody. Nealis into the box, a shot. It's a goal. And it is.
Now Nealis. Nealis taken down.
Up ahead, Nealis. He has been very active tonight. Dribbles right through two defenders. Puts on the brakes. Beautiful move.
To the penalty spot. Nealis rises above to head away. Nealis to his right. Dylan gets to it and scores! It's Dylan Nealis from Derek Dotson, and the senior puts the Hoyas ahead in the 5th minute.
The Hoyas basketball team.
Now Nealis sees Ahmed off his line, and it's a goal! It's the 4th of the season in spectacular fashion from Dylan Nealis. Georgetown 4.
Matt Chulis, could you join us, please? This is the associate head coach at University of Virginia, Matt Chulis. How are you?
Doing well.
I haven't seen you since MLS days. But what a great player this guy is, Joe Bell, training with the New Zealand national team. Is he part of their new youthful generation, if you will, man?
Yeah. Joe got his first call up in October. He played a game against Ireland and Lithuania, and is going to be a big part of their World Cup qualifying push.
Now, you played at University of Virginia as well. You're a Cavalier, defender of the junior year. I think I know where Virginia against their defensive prowess. Is that one of your main areas of concentration?
Yeah, I think not giving up goals is important. If you don't give up goals, you always have a chance to win, and I think that's our foundation. We want to be stalwarts in the back, and always give us a chance to win.
You played at the national, international level, under 20, and jumped into college. Did that international experience prepare you well for intercollegiate play?
Of course. You're playing internationally, you're coming up against some savvy players, and I was a defender, so little tricks from forwards, trying to get away from you, movements, and just being able to play at that speed was definitely beneficial.
What are some of the overall main attributes of Joe Bell?
As you can see from the highlights, Joe Bell, he's not a ton of highlights, but he's a guy who's irreplaceable in the team. Talisman for the team, hard worker, very good on the ball, connects a lot of passes, tough to get off the ball, leader by example. So I think he's one of those guys who you always come away with being like, man, that number 8's really good.
You played for the Columbus Crew, Chicago Fire, and MLS. And to USL as well. Is Joe ready to make that jump to professional soccer?
For sure, and Joe will be making that jump to professional soccer. He's not coming back for his last year of eligibility.
You kind of knew that was going to happen, didn't you?
Yeah, of course, and I think he's ready. I think he's developed. Initially, he wasn't ready. Everybody thinks they are, but I think in our setup in the college system, it helped him develop his game to where he could be a professional.
And New Zealand, hey, they get to the Interconfederations Cup against Peru. they're advancing. They're doing well.
Yeah, and hopefully Joe can be a big part. And he already played in the Under-20 World Cup, Under-17 World Cup, so hopefully he can play on the big stage.
The associate head coach for University of Virginia, Matt Julis.
Thank you.
This is Brian Weiss. Brian, would you please join us, if you don't mind? We'll talk with Dylan in just a second. But first and foremostly, to you, congratulations on a first NCAA championship.
Thank you. That's good. These guys. Thank you, Bill. First of all, I have to say I'm incredibly nervous. You're intimidating. You're like a soccer encyclopedia. So I'm just going to try to keep up the pace.
We're fellow Jesuit educated.
Okay.
And we all know the Jesuits' fundraising motto, don't we? Remember, it's not the money, it's the amount. But intercollegiate coaching for you, Stanford, Notre Dame, now Georgetown. We talked to some of our other coaches. What place does the intercollegiate game occupy in the overall structure of our sport?
It's a huge one, and you know, I was actually talking about this earlier today with Dan Gargan, who's one of our great alums from Georgetown, who's now here with Lou Foos. And I think when the United States wins a World Cup, it's going to be because we have a college system, because we have a high school system, because we have a great, diverse professional system that's going to really exemplify why we are great as a country. We have too many resources, too many factors going into it, and I think the college system is a huge developing factor for everything.
As a direct follow-up to that, we have to give Greg Berhalter some chance, don't we? Give him some time.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't pull the trigger. Let's go. He's doing a great job. I think you know, it's hard. It's really hard to get a system put into place, and it just takes time. And you got to be patient with innovative people like Greg. He's gonna be just fine.
Tell us about Dylan, who, as we saw in the video, is certainly not just a defender. He gets forward a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's rare you have a defender that I would term a match winner. I think you have a lot of match winners. I mean, Robbie is a great definition of a match winner. You know, Joe Bell's, in my mind, a match winner in a different way as a midfielder that pulls the strings. And Dylan, for us, is a match winner as a defender. Very rare to see that. And I think the highlight video is a really good example of what he does. He scores goals. He puts assists on the table. He clears danger. He snuffs out problems for in counterattack situations. And you can define a match winner as someone who doesn't allow the other team to win matches as well. And Dylan does that.
So as I asked Matt Julis about Joe Bell, he is indeed ready for the next level?
Oh, I don't know. You can ask him. I think he'll, yeah, for sure. I mean, he checks all the boxes that I think you know, a successful pro is gonna check. He's a different level athlete. I think he's a very mature player now. I think he's grown over his 4 years at Georgetown in terms of understanding the tactics of a game, when he needs to be a little bit more involved, and when he can let his teammates handle some situations, which is a sign of great maturity. But he's just evolved into an unbelievable young man. He's got a lot of character to go through the ups and downs of what a pro career is going to give.
Again, Brian Weiss, the coach of Georgetown. Congratulations, first championship.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you. And Dylan, this is Dylan Nealis, one of the reasons why Georgetown captured their first NCAA championship. This is Dylan Nealis. Dylan, stand up if you don't mind. Quite the senior year for you, NCAA championship, named the most valuable defender in the Final Four. Great senior year.
Yeah, I couldn't have written a better way to end it. You know, winning the NCAA national championship, it was great. You know, it wasn't just for Georgetown. That 2019 team, it was for all of Georgetown. You know, alumni were all there. You know, if you were there, they couldn't leave the field celebrating. So, just a great way to end my career as a Hoya.
This is the first NCAA championship for Georgetown, but the prowess, the pedigree of the program has been long-standing.
Yeah, my 4 years there, we struggled to get past the Sweet 16. Happened to do that this year. But, you know, 2012, they made it all the way to the College Cup final, lost to Maryland. But I think Georgetown's been on the map ever since, you know, the program started.
3 older brothers for you. Now I see why you always had to defend, right? They were always playing offense against the younger brother, right?
Yeah, it was a tough childhood. You know, I had to learn quickly, you know, or else I wouldn't get, you know, what I really wanted.
MLS Super Draft is next week, January 9th. 2 of the first 3 picks are Inter Miami. Possibility?
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. You never know, maybe me and Robbie will be teammates, you know, in the near future. But yeah, just looking forward to it. Very excited to see what's going to happen.
This is Dylan Nealis, ladies and gentlemen, from Georgetown. Okay, let's see where we are here. Let's meet a few people in the audience. Former Rookie of the Year in the North American Soccer League when he played for the St. Louis Stars. That was back in 1970. He's currently the president of the St. Louis Soccer Hall of Fame, Jim Leaker. Jim? Oh, Jim. Jim, congratulations on winning the Masters. From St. Louis University, their assistant athletic director is Matt Hayden, and he's joined by the women's soccer coach at St. Louis U, Katie Shields, as well as the men's assistant soccer coaches, Chris Birch and Kevin Stoll. Guys? Another division local program, intercollegiate program, pedigree in itself. SIU Evansville, the Cougars, excuse me. Sometimes we call them the Cougies. Kavanaugh calls them the Cougies on a regular basis. Let's welcome their women's soccer coach, Derek Burton. The men's soccer coach is Kale Wasserman, guys. Our community is tremendously fortunate to have many outstanding organizations playing at the youth level. MISA, Missouri Youth Soccer Association, SLISA, St. Louis Youth Soccer Association, but in particular, and we always like to recognize them at this particular dinner, the Spencer Group, Special Needs Soccer Group. It gives children Now, Claire, just hold on. I'm going to introduce you. Oh, just hold on. I'll introduce you. The volunteers who are there every Saturday at the soccer park on a regular basis. Ray Gardner, Kevin Byrne, Shirley McBroom, Janet Oberly, and Mark Kaiser. Nice hand for the volunteers. Now, the Spencer players with us this evening. Chris Bianchi. Chris, stand up. There's Chris. Jessie Bush. Is Jessie here? She is. And that shy, demure one in the back, Claire Gardner. The Lou Fuse Soccer Club had a tremendously successful 2019. The McKee-McVeigh 03 team won the national championship. The 05 and 01 girls reached the national finals. Congratulations to Lou Fuse and one of the prime movers and soccer icons in our community. As a matter of fact, soccer in the United States, one of the founding fathers of Lou Fuse is Don Popovic. Don? And the general manager of Lou Fuse Athletic is Dan Gargan, former MLS vet with the Los Angeles Galaxy. Dan? Welcome to the St. Louis Scott Gallagher organization, IOX and JB Marine. The president of St. Louis FC and St. Louis Scott Gallagher, along with quite a few members of his staff. I can't mention all of them, but the president is Pat Barry. Pat? Who else do we have here? Ted Williams, producer of Soccer Sunday on KFNS Radio. Producer extraordinaire. Ted is with us. Ted, how are you? Wait a minute. Producers don't get those good of seats. And former AR in Major League Soccer as well as internationally. George Gansner's with us. George? Who obviously likewise won the Masters. From the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, Benjamin Hockman and Tom Zimmerman. All right. This year we thought it appropriate, since he won the Hermann Trophy, this very trophy, back-to-back years, 1969 and 1970, given it that it's the 50th anniversary of the award. He still lives here in St. Louis. He's a member of the National Soccer Hall of Fame, played his intercollegiate soccer at St. Louis University, a former captain of the United States men's national team. A nice welcome for Al Trost. Now, in full disclosure, I must tell you, I was a teammate of Al's in 1969. He went on to play in 1970 as well. That has to be a typographical error. This is not 50 years since we played intercollegiate soccer.
It's unbelievable. We could play tomorrow.
I have titanium knees. I'm okay.
I'm the same way.
Al, you went on to play with the St. Louis Stars, then the California Surf, the Seattle Sounders. Is there any resemblance whatsoever to the NASL game, to the current brand of soccer, not just Major League Soccer, but national team-wise as well?
Oh, I think beyond a doubt, the game is so much more advanced. Physically, the players are so much stronger, quicker. Not that we couldn't keep up with them, but it's just amazing to see the quickness of some of these players.
So your first cap is in 1973 against Poland. Now, was this the same Polish team that created the great stir at the 1974 World Cup? Lotto, Gadolha, Sharma, Gogon, the whole crew?
Yes, it was. We played them up in the New England area in a very Polish community, so we weren't really the home team. But the United States at that time was noted for putting us into venues where they could draw the ethnic crowd.
You played in 69, 70, won the Hermann in those particular years. I asked some of the coaches, give us your input, Al. The current game, the intercollegiate game, it still indeed is a major factor in the overall development of the American player.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt about it. I think it does so much for the American player, academically especially, but I think and culturally, socially. I think it's great for the players. If I think back 50 years, and I got to recognize the MAC for such a great award that they give out now. I think we owe them so much. 50 years ago, I got a call from Mr. Bob Hermann, and he wanted to congratulate me for winning his trophy, the Hermann Trophy. He said, well, can I meet you down at St. Louis U's campus? So I met Mr. Hermann and Father Paul Reiner, the president of St. Louis U, and a member of the NCAA. We met down in Father Reiner's office. I was awarded the trophy, and I went home.
No dinner, nothing, zero. Thanks, Al. Drive safely. Finally, Jim Cavanaugh talked about it. It's the real buzz around St. Louis. What will it mean for St. Louis to finally get back into that national soccer map with Team 28 in Major League Soccer?
Oh, wow. Well, that is a good question. I think knowing Jim and the organization, I think they're going to do a great job in really putting a first-class team on the field. And I think you're going to see some really outstanding players that St. Louis will really identify with, and I have all the confidence in that.
Ladies and gentlemen, my job was always very simple. Win the ball, cut it out, give it to Al Trost. Al Trost, ladies and gentlemen.
Bill.
We now send it back to Greg Beekman. Greg?
Yeah, just very quickly, last month the club hosted the Jack Buck Awards, which honors the St. Louis sports personality. We give out other awards too, one of which is the Legends Award for sports personalities in St. Louis who, obviously fit that description, and we felt like there's no one that fits that description better than Al Trost. So Al, we'd like to present you with a Legends Award from the Missouri Athletic Club.
now I used to play with a legend. Wow. Start to give out some awards for the presentation of the 2019 Women's MAC Hermann Trophy. Let's welcome back MAC soccer co-chair Annie Beekman, who does a magnificent job with this particular event, raising it to an entirely different level, was a tremendous coach in the St. Louis area. Nice welcome for Annie Beekman. Annie?
Congratulations to all the finalists. To be recognized as one of the 3 best from among thousands of collegiate soccer players in the United States is a remarkable accomplishment. The success of any athlete is certainly not done without the support and guidance of dedicated parents and coaches. So congratulations to you as well. Catarina Macario is the 5th women's player to win the Hermann Trophy in back-to-back seasons. In 2019, she led the nation in scoring and led Stanford to a national championship. The Brazilian-born junior, who resides in San Diego, was named Pac-12 Midfielder of the Year and earned first-team All-American honors for the 3rd year in a row. She led the nations in goals, assists, points, shots, and game-winning goals. Her 87 points this season is the 3rd most in NCAA history. Before we present the Hermann Trophy, let's take a look at some highlights from this past season. To receive the MAC Hermann Trophy on Catarina's behalf, please welcome Stanford head coach Paul Ratcliffe.
Well, first of all, I want to thank the Missouri Athletic Club for honoring Catarina and hosting this amazing event. I've been fortunate enough to come a few years now, and it's always a highlight of my year, so thank you for everything you do to promote soccer and college soccer specifically. Catarina's worked so hard for this, and she's such a tremendous player. You can see the highlights. She's so gifted as a soccer player. And I was thinking about her and how I could describe her so you guys get to know her a little bit more. And the thing that kept coming back to me that kind of stuck with me was the word selfless. She's such a selfless person, and it's so rare to have a star player that her main goal is to make sure everyone else is put before her needs. And this year, I had a real dilemma. I thought it was going to be a rebuilding year for our Stanford team. And I started out the year, and I'm trying to form the team and get everyone the right formation and the right chemistry on the team. And there was a huge void in midfield. So I brought in Catarina, and I spoke to her, and I said, would you be open to moving from forward to midfield? Now, this is a forward that's one of the most prolific goal scorers in the entire nation and just won the Hermann Trophy. And everything about coaching tells you, keep a prolific goal scorer as high up the field and as close to the other goal as possible. And I'm having a conversation with her for the greater good of the team to maybe put her into midfield. Straight away her response, I trust you, Paul, and I want what's best for the team. I want this team to function at the highest level, and I want to win a championship. Truly remarkable to have a star player to have that mentality and that attitude, and I think it goes through our whole team at Stanford and was a big part of our success. Another example, one that had me scratching my head, was early in the year. I think it was the second game of the year. We have everything organized, and we get a penalty kick in the second game, and Catarina is our penalty kick taker, and I've told her, you take the penalty kick. You're the best one on the team at taking the penalty. You take it. We get the penalty kick. She picks up the ball, and she's walking away from the penalty spot with the ball. And I'm going, what is she doing? She goes over to one of our senior players that hasn't scored as many goals, and she gives the ball to them because she wanted them to score a goal. That's the kind of individual Catarina is, and that's why I think she's so special, because she has the unique ability to make everyone around her better because she creates such great relationships with everyone. Everyone trusts her, everyone loves her. There's no jealousy that she's achieving all this success. Everyone loves to see her get this success because she deserves it, because she cares about others much more than she cares about her own, I'd say, success. So this award is really significant, I think, because the byproduct of her being so selfless and caring about others is that she's getting recognized. And I'm so happy that everyone is recognizing her because she deserves it. She's truly remarkable player. And above and beyond that, she's not just a great athlete, she's a great student, a great human being. This year, she received All-American, first team All-American Academic Award with a 3.79 GPA in communications. So she's doing it all at Stanford, and I think she has a great perspective. Coming from Brazil and coming here, she sees what a great opportunity is to be involved with college athletics and be at a great university to learn. And she's striving for excellence every day and taking full advantage of it. And it's a testament to her hard work and her dedication that she's achieving all this. And I know the one person or the people she'd want to thank the most is all of her teammates, because she's so selfless and she believes that her teammates are probably what got her to this point. So with that, I just want to thank everybody. And actually a side note, just because I'm a little nostalgic because it's a new decade and I've been having a great evening getting to reminisce with Kelly O'Hara. I want you all to know how amazing she is and what she's done for my career. I'll probably get emotional here, but it's always been cool to go to Stanford to get an education because it's one of the best universities in the world. It wasn't always cool to go there and play soccer. But Kelly was my first big recruit that came to Stanford and put us on the map. She was the first one to win the Hermann Trophy, and truly remarkable, and look at the career she's having. So my dream is that Catarina can have a similar type of career as Kelly, because she's been truly remarkable. Thank you very much.
The other half of this husband-wife duo that continues to do great things for this dinner will now present the MIC Men's Honor. Let's welcome Greg Beekman. Greg, come on up.
Robby Robinson was the ACC Offensive Player of the Year and a United Soccer Coach's first team All-American in 2019. The junior forward from Camden, South Carolina, led Clemson's high-powered scoring attack. He led the nation with 45 points and tied for the lead in goals with 18. Let's take a look at some of Robby's highlights from the past season.
Shot, fired on it.
present the Hermann Trophy to Robbie, please welcome Clemson head coach Mike Newton.
Wow. Thank you to the Missouri Athletic Club. Unlike some of my counterparts here and one of my mentors, Anson, this is my first time at this event. I've been coaching for 35 years. So thank you. And thank you, Robbie, and congratulations to all the other finalists. Robbie, what I can say to you tonight is that Clemson is truly, tonight, a football school. The real football. Thank you, Robbie. This is great, not only for Robbie, but the prestige of the award for our program is fantastic. There are only 2 previous winners of the Hermann Trophy Award, and I might add, there are no Heisman Award winners at Clemson. Just for reference purposes. Dabble will get his day. But an incredible season Robbie had. 18 goals, 9 assists, and what many of you don't know is that he was injured for 4 matches and missed almost a quarter of the season, which hopefully with some of the reform that we're going to have in the future that'll be voted on in April, we'll be able to avoid that for our players and be able to play over the entire year and not play as many games as were compacted into the season as it currently is. So you have a player like Robbie and Dylan and Joe who can go to national team duty and not miss a quarter of their season when they have a pulled hamstring. We're hoping for that reform. Again, that'll be voted on in April. But if you think about Robbie, right, I want you to think about, and there's no pressure on him, but Altros just watched his goal, one of the goals that he scored against Providence, and tapped me on the shoulder because we were talking earlier, and he said, that's Cruyff, who he had played against in the old NASL. And for you, more of you who are current, who want to get a reference as to the type of player Robbie is, think about a cross between Clint Dempsey and Eric Winalda. He's got the creative flair of Clint Dempsey and the finishing prowess of Eric Winalda. No pressure, Rob. He's got a very, very bright future at the next level, which next week in the MLS draft he's declared for, and we're very, very hopeful about his future, and we do hope that that is centered in the MLS to begin with, and here in St. Louis when your team comes to fruition in the coming years. What many people don't know about Robbie, and for the younger players in the crowd, you need to understand that success is not a straight line. And one of the things that Robbie's taught me as a coach is that if you believe in yourself, you get a good support group around you to believe in you, great things can happen. Because it hasn't been just success after success and goals after goals. 2 years ago, Robbie missed 3/4 of the season due to injury. And it always hasn't been the easiest time for him at Clemson. But he made the decisions himself with good guidance from a lot of different areas, and we know it takes a village to create champions. And at Clemson, he was able to do that, and I think what Anson talked about, the role of college soccer in the development of our players, you're going to be able to see that at the next level with Robby Robinson, because he was developed through our youth programs in South Carolina. He's a South Carolina native, played club soccer at Carolina Elite Soccer Academy, played for the Charleston Battery as a youth player, and then came to Clemson. And tonight he stands as the #1 player in the country in the college game. And I believe next week he'll be one of the top 2 or 3 picks in the MLS draft, right? The other thing I'd like to say is that he's made the sacrifices it takes to be a great player. Clemson's a fantastic place to go to school and fantastic athletic program. But when there are 100,000 people in your town and the lights are on for a football game, and you look over to the practice soccer field and the lights are on, and there's one person out there practicing, and that's Robby Robinson. He loves the sport like no other. I think the beauty of him, more than anything else, is his innocence and his desire to be the best he can possibly be. And that innocence, when we talk about it, all he asks me about, all the questions are, what do I need to be better? Who's better than me? How do I get better? And then he goes out and he does it. To be the best continues to drive him. He certainly has an ego, as all goal scorers do. But better yet, he has an inner confidence that is unmatched in my coaching career. An inner confidence that with so many players you see as false confidence, Robby knows, and he doesn't have to say anything about it. He lets his game talk for him, and he goes out every single day to get better. So I'm very, very proud of you, Robby. And one of the things that I heard Alex Ferguson say once, that simplicity and the way that you can be as simple as possible is one of Robby's traits. And what Alex Ferguson said, the best 2 words a player can hear from a coach is well done. Well done, Robby. That was a goal.
So first and foremost, I would really like to thank the Hermann Award Committee and all the college coaches and teams that nominated and voted for me for this award. I also want to congratulate Joe and Dylan on their seasons and joining me as finalists. Secondly, I would like to thank my teammates. I've learned so much from them and made lifelong friendships since I've been at Clemson. Next, I would like to thank Clemson University for taking me into the Clemson family. They really took me in as one of their own, and I felt like wherever I went throughout the university, I was accepted and just could be able to talk to anyone. But more importantly, I would really like to thank Coach Noonan for believing in me from the start. You taught me how important taking responsibility for off-the-field things has such a big impact on what you can do on the field, and I will be forever appreciative of your belief in me. Lastly, I would like to give a big thank you to my family for always believing in me to do great things. Since I was a little kid, I fell in love with this sport, and they did everything to help me succeed. Thank you to everyone that is here tonight, the Hermann Committee and the Missouri Athletic Club for sponsoring such a prestigious award. I hope everyone has a great night, and I am forever grateful to have received this award. Thank you.
Congratulations, Catarina and Robby. A couple quick questions. We're going to talk it over with 2 respective head coaches since they've coached 14 of the 29 MAC Hermann winners on the women's level. Paul, would you please stand up, please? Anson, come on over. This is Paul Radcliffe. You just heard from him, and Anson Dorrance. First of all, congratulations to you this year, championship, 300th win. But you said, I saw after one of your games, post-game interview, every time you play, it's a new memory.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's great to have a lot of wins, but I feel like I'm only as good as the last game. So I always put a lot of focus under our preparation, and I want to make sure, you know, we have a strong performance in every game.
A question for the both of you. I've asked every head coach I've ever talked with, worked with, done television with. It's not so much they say about the X's and O's, the tactics, but about management of personalities. Is that an accurate assessment?
Yes, you're absolutely spot on. I think the longer I've coached, the more I can appreciate that the game goes into this category. If you want to become elite, It's about self-discipline. It's about competitive fire. It's about self-belief. It's about love of the ball. It's about love of playing the game. It's about love of watching the game. It's about coachability, and it's about grit. And somewhere in that alchemy between all those different platforms lies greatness. And obviously, both of us have coached some extraordinary talent. But I'm always shocked at some of the kids that don't make it and some of the ones that do. And it comes down to those 8 things I just talked about. And the more we can drive those platforms, the faster they're going to achieve their potential.
Paul, how about you? Is it indeed a game of management of personalities?
I think so. It was really interesting after we won the national championship this season in the press conference. The thing that really resonated with me was all the players were talking about how they trusted their teammates had their back, how much they loved their teammates. So I think you have to create the right culture, and that's part of managing the personalities of the team. And I think that's why Catarina is such an outlier for me, is because she's a superstar that cares about everyone else and wants to make everything right for the whole team. And that's a big part of our success. We've won, 2 national championships in the last 3 years, and I attribute it a lot to the culture of the squad.
Speaking of the culture of the squad, with reference to your job as the coach, is it up to you, managing exceptional players, elite players, to continue to provide that environment so they can succeed?
Absolutely. A goal of mine is to produce the highest level players possible. So I definitely want to put them in the right environment, make sure it's very competitive, and then also find out the specific needs of each player and where they can get better. And every player should have like a niche. Maybe it's a target player back to goal. They have to become the best they can be in that role to be a top-level player. So you're always looking for that. The one outlier I would say is Kelly O'Hara. When she was at Stanford, she was one of the greatest goal scorers I ever had. And she goes to the national team, she ends up an outside back. So I would have never saw that coming.
She can play anywhere. Anson, how about you? You've said repeatedly that elite players, female players, do not suffer from exceptionalism. They respect everybody they play against.
That's absolutely the truth. I think Paul hit the nail on the head. I think what's critical for women's teams to succeed is the chemistry and their affection for each other, their willingness to play for each other, their sacrifices for each other take you to championship levels. And I think that's the truth. I think all the great teams at all levels in the women's game, it's about connection. It's about basically sacrificing. It's about basically playing for the person in front of you, to the left of you, to the right of you. One of my favorite statements about creating great teams was on the walls of the Argentine national coaching platform, which was in Buenos Aires. And it was by Minotti, their great world championship coach. And he talked about the construction of small societies. And the nice thing about a soccer game, if you think about it, is there are small societies all over the field. Obviously, there are general societies like your defense, your midfield, your front line. But there's also a special relationship between the left back and the left midfielder, the center forward and the 10 underneath that player. And that really struck me when I was there, and I've never forgotten about it. So early in every season, we talk about that. We talk about the construction of those societies, about, well, if you're on the left side, let's not let anyone go down that side. If you're on the right side, let's see if we can penetrate every time we get the ball on that side. And I think those sorts of constructions, the relationships between all the players around you and the chemistry is critical for any championship team's success.
Ladies and gentlemen, 2 icons of the women's game, Anson Dorrance and Paul Ratcliffe.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Anson. Thank you, Paul. Paul referenced a couple times Kelly O'Hara, who was a dynamic forward for Stanford, 23 goals her senior year. But most recently, we've seen her play as a right back and done so well that she's now on the world's 11. Let's take a look at Kelly O'Hara in action.
I attribute Paul Ratcliffe's coaching and just management of me at the school to a lot of my success. I think he's one of the best coaches I've ever had the opportunity to play for, and I'm really thankful that I got 4 years with him.
I think about
my little 11-year-old self, and I remember being at Lightning soccer tryout. The coach was like, who here wants to play on the national team? I kind of remember being like, well, everyone else is raising their hand, so I guess I will too. Because if I want to make this team, I need to raise my hand. As soon as soccer was kind of my #1 thing, it's crazy, and to think that I've done it 100 times, it's kind of wild. I like to win another World Cup and another Olympics. It's always my goal, is just win the world tournaments with this team.
Kelly?
Bill?
It's obvious Kelly follows the Jim Kavanaugh workout tapes.
It's my #1 play on iTunes.
Kelly, congratulations on the World Cup, 2 World Cup wins in a row. But I think the real thing of an outstanding accomplishment is being named the right back on the World's 11. Congratulations. When did you find out about that?
I found out about 2 weeks before the event in Milan, maybe even a little bit less than that. And they sent it in a way that was kind of cryptic. It was like, you've been nominated to the World Best 11. And we had already known about the short list, which is really a long list of about 50 plus players. So there was a little confusion. I was like, did I make it? Did I not? But ended up being on the FIFA World Best 11, going to Milan. It was an incredible event, and it was a very, very big honor.
Congratulations on that tremendous accomplishment. How's the ankles, the hamstring? I mean, let's put it this way. Was there ever a question that you may not be able to participate in the 2019 World Cup?
Yeah, in my mind, I kind of kept it under wraps to the public and to the world, and even to some of my teammates and coaches. I was questioning if I would be more than a 15-minute sub in the World Cup up until about beginning of May, and the World Cup started June, I think 11th or something for us. So it was not the lead up I expected for this World Cup, but thankfully made some good medical decisions at the last minute to ensure that I was able to play. And by middle of May, beginning of June, I was flying, feeling good, and somehow I was able to play in almost every game, and we were able to win. So
well,
it all worked out.
It did indeed. It showed in your play too. We talk about the World Cup and getting ready for a World Cup. Explain the drain, the absolute drain of a World Cup, physically, mentally, emotionally.
So I spoke about this after we won, and during the World Cup, I remember thinking, oh my God, this is so hard. I don't remember it being this hard. And we had won gold in 2012, the Olympics, and the Olympics and World Cup can be very different, and we obviously won in 2015, but I played a very different role for that team in that tournament. So this time around in 2019, I just remember thinking in the middle, this is so mentally, emotionally, physically terrible. Like, this isn't very fun. The games were very fun, but the in-between time of thinking about the next game was not as enjoyable as I remembered it being, probably because I wasn't a starter and didn't feel the weight of the success on my shoulders as much. But we kind of equated it, or somebody was like, oh yeah, it's kind of like when a woman has a baby. They don't remember how terrible the actual birth is because they just get a baby at the end. Whereas we were like, oh, we don't remember how terrible the World Cup is because we just get a trophy at the end. So I was like, remember how terrible this is. And I say that you guys are like, terrible, then why do you play soccer? Terrible in the sense of it's really, really hard, and there's a lot that a lot of people don't see. But at the same time, it's like terrible in the best way, because I love what I do, and I love the competition. I love the anxiety and the stress and the nerves before a game. So yeah, it's very, very hard, and I don't think people will realize how hard it is.
At Stanford, you were a prolific forward. At Sky Blue, Jim Gabarra played you just about everywhere. And then prior to the 2012 Olympics, head coach Pia Sundhage says, look, the only way you're going to make this team is as a wide back. And as opposed to complaining about it, you simply said, let's go to work.
Yes, when I was presented with that option, and it wasn't really an option, it was just kind of like, you can either do this or you probably won't be back with the national team or have a big chance at making the Olympics, I was all for it. I played forward all my life, scored a couple of goals at Stanford, not as many as Catarina, but so that transition was difficult, but I had always wanted to play in the Olympics. That was one of my biggest goals, I think, as a kid, maybe even more so than playing in a World Cup. So I wanted to be on that Olympic squad very badly. So I was all in, and I just, every day I went to practice with the goal of learning something new and working on something different, because I knew that I needed to study the position, and I had so much work I needed to do if I wanted to be in the right place come Olympics time.
In the 2019 World Cup, when you collided, hit heads with Lieke Martens from the Netherlands, did you have an idea then of the severity of your injury?
I knew it wasn't great. I remember thinking, like, this is a bummer, but wanted to play and went back on, and it was right before halftime, so got back on the field even though the fourth official was telling me not to, and went into the locker room. The medical staff assessed me and made the decision to pull me from the game, which I wanted to play, but at the same time, I only get one brain, so thankfully I have 2 World Cups. So it was a bummer of a decision and a bummer of a moment, but at the end of the day, I knew that Ali Krieger going into that game was going to take care of business, and I had full faith in my team to be successful. So we still won. That's all that matters.
Now, you do have to admit, that's a unique way of looking at things. 1 brain, 2 World Cups, isn't it?
Well, it's the truth.
After that 2019 final, and many times before that, I've read quite a few things that you've said in the process of your overall development about a manifestation mindset. Explain that.
Yeah, I think that through my not only professional career, but also my collegiate career, I have learned a lot about myself, and I've learned a lot about mental fortitude and what that can do for you, not only as a person, but especially as a player. And for me, in the past couple years, I started to realize how important my mentality was. I meditate now before games, and it's become a very big component of not only on the field, but off the field, of just putting into your mind what you want, having a goal, but also realizing the steps that it takes to get to that goal. Not just going like, oh, I want to win a World Cup, and you wake up every day and you say, I want to win a World Cup. Well, it's like, what do you have to do to get there? And for me, that was, you manifest what you want, and it's worked out.
Your club teammate from Utah, Becky Sauerbrunn, has said, I'll quote her roughly, it's always great to have someone like Kelly O'Hara because she's just crazy enough, and you need a player like that on the field. I guess that's a compliment.
I guess so. Coming from Becky, it is. Becky's a little crazy too, so just so we all know that. We're all a little crazy in our own way on the national team. You have to be to live the lifestyle that we do, and to be able to continue to be as successful as we are. And for me, and Paul can attest to this, I was crazy at Stanford as well. Yeah, I mean, I'm just a very competitive person. I've always been that way, even when I was a little kid. And I think that I've learned how to serve, or how that's allowed, or how to let that serve me in the best way. Because in times, I think that sometimes my competitiveness probably took away from my game. But I've learned how to use it as my secret weapon. And I think a lot of people would probably say that I'm one of the most competitive people on the national team. And that's saying a lot, considering our team and how crazy we are as a whole. So, but I think it's a good thing.
Speaking of this competitive streak, was it really begun? Did it really start when you were a young woman and didn't make that ODP team? Did that have a lot to do with it?
Yeah, I think I was competitive before that, but so what Bill is speaking on is I was on the ODP state team, and I don't know if this is how they do it anymore, but they have a region camp, and you make a region pool from there, and then you make the team. And I made the pool my first year, but I didn't make the team. And I remember being completely devastated, and at that time I played basketball, high school basketball, and also club soccer, and that was kind of the switch that made me realize soccer is what I really want to do and what I really want to pursue, and that failure propelled me forward.
Julie Foudy once told me that the 1999 team had such a strong, dynamic mental makeup to their team, to their first 11, that they thought at times they could win games with their minds. Did the 2015 and 2019 editions of this team, were you pretty much the same?
I think that the team now has a lot of similarities from the 99ers. I think that the culture on the women's national team has just transcended time and has been passed on from generation to generation. And I learned that from the players before me, Abby Wambach, Heather O'Reilly, Heather Mitz. They taught me what it meant to be on the national team. And that has helped to keep that type of mentality through the years. And I don't know if we would believe that we could just think that we would win and we would win, but we definitely have a very, very mentally strong team.
Foudy also told me you're a great conduit for the younger players, explaining what this overall culture of a national team means and why and how we got 4 stars on our shirt. Do you relish that role?
Yeah, I think for me, I just know how important and special and it's an honor to play on the national team, and I've known that. I knew that even before I got there, and so when I got there, and like I said, Abby and Heyo and Mitzi, they all put their arm around me and taught me and guided me and just helped me in my early years. That meant so much to me, and they passed down a culture to me, and now I want to make sure that we pass it down to the younger generations because they will be playing long after we are all gone. And I want to, it's kind of like you rent the national team jersey, you don't own it, and I want to make sure that we leave, or when I leave, it's in a better place than it was when I got there, so.
Speaking of the younger generation of the players, how about the World Cup that Rose Lavelle had?
She did all right. No, Rose was fantastic. She played on the right side with me and Tobin for the majority of the games, and she's just a very, very special player and a very special person too. She's quite funny. A lot of people, I don't know if people would know that, but she's hilarious, but also she's just a shining star, and she plays that way, and I'm so proud of the role that she had at the World Cup and the shoes that she filled, and she did fantastic. There's no other way to put it.
One of the missions, you've said this repeatedly, one of the missions of this 2019 team was to not just to sell this sport to the United States, but to do so and to push the sport around the world as well. How is that proceeding?
I think it's doing pretty well, considering the numbers that came out after the World Cup in terms of TV audiences around the world and the attendance at the World Cup. On the national team, we obviously all play because we love it, but we know that when we are wearing that jersey, we have a responsibility to push the sport forward, not just for women, but for men and everyone in this country, around the world, and there's a lot of work to be done on the equality front of things, but like I said, we feel responsible to make sure that that happens, and I think that we're all doing a very good job of pushing for it.
All right, before we let you get out here, some quick hitters.
Okay, I'm ready.
No hedging.
I'll try not to.
Favorite moment?
Winning the 2019 World Cup.
Well, then it doesn't have to be that.
And the 2015 and the 2012 Olympics.
Wait a minute, we're not catching a flight. It doesn't have to be that.
Okay. I thought this was like, you have 5 seconds, answer.
What's more memorable? You kind of alluded to this. I was kind of taken aback when you said it's more memorable to win an Olympic gold medal than a World Cup?
Well, no. When I was a child, my first just vision of women on TV playing sports was the 1996 gymnastics team at the Olympics. And I remember watching that and being like, oh, I'm going to do that. That looks cool. Like doing a sport on TV for your country. And I didn't know that was going to be soccer, because at that point I played a lot of sports. But in terms of Olympic or World Cup, which one's better, they're just entirely different.
Favorite teammate?
My best friends are probably Allie Long and Alex Morgan.
Most difficult opponent, collectively as a team, and who individually do you not want to see running at you for 90 minutes?
Collectively, France is a great opponent. We have so many good matchups with teams. Sweden is always a good game. England, I mean, I could go on, but and then player, I don't enjoy playing against Sam Kerr because she's so good.
Who does?
Yeah, but I love her as a human. Yeah, she's very good.
Of all the places you played, club, college, international, favorite venue?
Ooh, probably Wembley Stadium in London when we won the 2012 Olympics. It's just such a storied venue, and it was incredible. It was packed full, and I still remember looking into the crowd before the game started, before the whistle blew, and just soaking in the moment and being like, wow, this is really, really cool.
And an answer to a World Cup trivia question. The only venue in World Cup history where the host country played every game. They never left Wembley Stadium. That's neither here nor there, but nonetheless.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
If you weren't a professional soccer player, you would be?
Professional surfer.
A professional surfer.
Or snowboarder.
What's your preference?
Surfing.
Okay. Is the 2015 semifinal goal against Germany your most memorable goal?
For the national team, yes, because I've only scored 2. So there's not a lot to choose from.
But I want you to say that one.
No, it was a good goal.
Foudy says you're a great cook. You ever cook for the team?
I've cooked for players on the team when we have lived together, but no, I've never cooked for the team as a whole. But yes, I do really enjoy cooking.
It's a great pleasure to have the 2009 MAC Hermann Trophy winner, a member of the World 11, Kelly O'Hara. Thanks, Kelly.
You're great. I loved your review of the Liverpool-Barcelona game. It was so good.
Mr. Beekman, some last remarks?
Thanks, Bill. Just before we end the festivities this evening, wanted to take a quick moment to talk about our amazing MC, Bill McDermott. The year 1970 is notable not just because Al Trost won his second of his 2 Hermann Awards, but also because it marked the beginning of Bill's remarkable career covering the sport of soccer. Beginning as a reporter at the 1970 World Cup in Mexico, as you can tell from the evening, he's covered everything that you can possibly think of on a world stage, on a local stage, on a national stage. So this year marks the 50th year of Bill's incredible career. And in honor of those 50 years of service to St. Louis, to the U.S., for all he's done for this event, the MAC Sports Foundation is making a donation to the Mary McDermott Fund at Cardinal Glennon. Bill and his wife, Connie, established this fund 11 years ago in honor of their daughter, Mary, as a way to raise funds for the Pediatric Hybrid Cardiac Catheterization Suite at Cardinal Glennon Hospital. They've run a 3rd grade basketball tournament at Immaculata School over the past 11 years, and somehow they've raised north of $480,000 doing that. So there's the information. If you look on the video screen, there's information on how to donate. We hope you'll consider lending your support. And thanks again, Bill, for all you've done for us. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you very much, Greg.
And with that, I'm happy to announce that the bar is open and the Jack Buck Grill downstairs. Thanks you very much for coming. Absolutely. Thanks, Thank you.